What's going on? It's the RapNerd, and I'm here today to talk about The Wrath of Becky, which is the sequel to 2020's Becky. Now, the movie released back in May. It was in theaters actually, and I didn't get a chance to see it because it was nowhere near me. So I figured I'll just wait till it hits streaming because this movie didn't get a lot of buzz at all. I got no promotion. I only knew about it because Letterboxd did a tweet about movies that drop in May, and I saw that at the end, so I was like, oh shit. So I feel like if you're here watching, it's one of two things. You're a subscriber who just likes to watch my videos, so I thank you if that is you, or you're somebody who has seen the first Becky and you want to hear how the sequel did. So I kind of got to get into the first movie to understand where we are with Wrath of Becky. The first movie follows this girl named Becky who was visiting a summer house or a lake house with her dad and kind of like his girlfriend wanting to be a stepmom, and it gets invaded by these neo-Nazis who just broke out of prison. Yes, that's a lot. And it's pretty much her just fighting back and killing off these Nazis and fighting for the family. That's all I say about that, because I know there are some folks who haven't seen that film. It stars, I forgot the girl's name. I think her name is Lucy something. You've seen her. She used to be a kid star. She was in, the most recent thing that I can think she was in was Dr. Sleep. She's one of the soul eaters in there. She was in Ouija Board. She was in the most recent Babysitter. So that's who she is, and it has Kevin James in it like you've never seen him before. He did an excellent job. So don't want to spoil that because I know people haven't seen it. So this movie follows that movie. I think it's like a few years later, if I remember right, and just saw what I saw. And it's pretty much a similar premise. Becky has found a new home, and these other group of I would call them terrorists, you know, in the sense of kind of like the Nazis, but they're like a kind of a different tier to kind of match today's political climate, right? They end up doing Becky wrong. It's almost like the John Wick story. They beat her dog and blah, blah, blah. I don't want to give too much about what happens. And Becky goes on revenge. And if you've seen the first one, Becky is, for whatever reason, very skilled and trained and knows how to kill people really well. So you can imagine how this movie is. It's pretty fun. Wrath of Becky was just as fun as the first one. Well, I can say the first one was a little more fun because with this sequel, they minimized the cast, so there's not like a bunch of random goons for her to kill like the first one. But it still brings a lot of fun and enjoyment because of the characters involved and what she does do to them. I mean, this is funny. This movie almost fits in the horror genre pretty much because of the outlandish and over-top ways people get killed, but it really has nothing horror-esque about it. There's nothing scary about it. There's nothing that's dreadful that keeps you on the edge of your seat in fear. It's just a straight-up, over-the-top, bloody action film in a sense. She's like Macaulay Culkin, but just way more violent and way more sinister and willing to kill people. That's kind of who Becky is. And yeah, so honestly, if you have seen the first Becky and you didn't like that movie, I don't see you liking this one because this one doesn't do that much different than the first one. It's kind of like the same thing. But for those who did like Becky, this is going to be a nice, fun film. And I think they do something interesting at the end to set up a third movie, which I don't know if that's going to happen because, again, this movie had zero promotion, none whatsoever. I think the box office didn't even make $1 million, so who knows if they're going to make another movie. But I would like to see where this leads and what they do, because that really piqued my interest. What can I say about the film? It's hard to talk about the movie if you haven't seen the first one because, again, it's the same exact premise. Becky going on the hunt, and what they do with this terrorist group is hilarious. The type of things they stand on. Oh, also, Sean Scott Williams is he's the villain of the film, and I think he does an incredible job here. There is this monologue that he gives somebody that is super duper good. I love that monologue he gave. You got to see it to really feel what I'm saying. Don't want to give too much about it, but he takes this guy in this room and it starts out as a casual conversation, and he kind of starts to talk, and he's like, "Here's a cool story," and he starts to roll into something that just really was a really good, really well written dialogue for that moment. But again, Sean Scott Williams did a good job. I think it's another performance that if you've never seen Sean outside of being funny, this might surprise you. But he did that other movie a few months ago. I think it's called Bloodline, or if I got that wrong, it's Blood something, and he's kind of a serial killer. So if you've seen him in that movie, his performance here is just as like stoic as that one, where there's not too much funny things happening. He's just about his shit, and you know it pretty well. So really the only downfall to the movie is it feels more straight to streaming than the first Becky. The first Becky was very theatrical. It just, from just the way it was shot and the cinematography and all that kind of stuff, it just felt like a bigger budget. But here it doesn't feel as big, but it's still just as fun. But I don't really see how watching this in a theater would be the ultimate experience. I feel like watching this at home, you can get the same experience. I don't think you missed out anything if you plan to watch it, you know. Matter of fact, it's on Amazon for $6.99 to rent. So if you did enjoy the first one, definitely get us a watch. And if you never heard of it, I would say watch the trailer, and if that intrigues you, watch the first one first and then watch this one, even though you can watch this and be fine because it kind of goes over what happened. But I feel like if you see the first movie, and what they do with this film is they kind of start off of Becky kind of recanting the first movie, so there's like scenes that you see from that film, and it's gonna make you want to see it because it's super fun, you know. So that's pretty much all I can give about this film without spoiling. I did really enjoyed it. It's one of my favorites of the year. I can definitely say that, just like the first one. So if that does sound like something interesting, go ahead and watch it. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised if you go into this blind, especially if you're a fan of action and horror-like violence. Like, again, the violence is somewhat like a slasher movie, kind of like how Sisu was in a sense, the way that it's handled. But yeah, it's more of the gore and just, like I said, over the top. There's one scene that happens involving a bear trap. Yeesh, hell, an arrow. They do something fun with a grenade, and yeah. So I'm gonna say I don't want to spoil anything else, but if you have seen The Wrath of Becky, let me know in the comments what you think. If you've seen the first Becky, are you interested in? Are you gonna watch this? And if you like this kind of content, make sure to subscribe. And like I said earlier, if you already are subscribed, thank you. And until next time, peace. RapNerd Productions, no capping, that's word to mommy.